Welcome, beautiful people, to Petrify the Patriarchy. I'm your guide, Joe B. If you're ready to unearth the subtle ways patriarchal culture has shaped your world and uncover the hidden power within your own shadow, you're in the right place. Here we don't just speak truth to power, we wield it, turning stagnant energies to stone so that your authentic, liberated self can truly flourish. Let the unlearning begin. Oh, hello everybody. Welcome back. It's me, Joe B, and this is Petrify the Patriarchy. If you're watching on the YouTubes, I am a pale ghost of myself. I've been really sick. I've tried to record this, I swear it's been like 17 and a half times. And usually just manage to choke on air and cough for 2 hours instead. So I think I'm finally over the worst of it. I apologize if a little cough pops out, but finally I think feeling well enough to get the words out. So I had a little spark the other day while I was listening to, I can't even remember her name. Someone on my Insta feed speaks to men and their, particularly if they're red pillars, part of the Manosphere. And I had this idea pop into my head that I felt like I just needed to speak to. So I don't think today's going to be very long. But I really wanted to dive into the belly of the beast, which is that Manosphere idea. And, it's the algorithmic echo chamber where the self-proclaimed quote-unquote alpha males sit behind expensive microphones in fancy studios, talking endlessly over themselves about body counts and hypergamy, marrying up, and how to negotiate women's compliance. And really, honestly, they love to treat dating like it's a vending machine. They seem to truly believe that if a man inserts the correct shallow metrics, things like financial status, a certain gym routine, or that slick sales pitch that everybody seems to have on their bios, the AI generated ones, right? That the machine will dispense heterosexual sex. And to them, the physical act of sex is the ultimate masculine conquest. It's a trophy. It's an extraction. It's a finalization of some kind of perceived, control or game to win. And I think it really honestly comes down to some sort of validation that they're a dominant creature, right? And I think they think they're inserting coins into a machine, completely ignorant to the fact that they're trying to strip mine us, women. And today we're going to use the systemic stethoscope of the research I've done, along with countless other anecdotes that I'm sure you've heard, to listen to the absolute cosmic joke at the center of the Manosphere logic. Because while the Manosphere frames heterosexual sex as this hyper-masculine act of conquest, they are fundamentally misunderstanding the energetic blueprint of the universe. Sex is not a conquest. Men think it is. But sex, honestly, is the literal physical alchemy of creation. And let's be entirely real about the biology here. Despite the reasons why anyone decides to have sex, there is always a baseline reality. No matter how careful you are, no matter how prepared you think you are, unless you've had a full hysterectomy, there is always a small chance to create a fetus. Period. So you have to, at the very least, have creation on your mind when you enter the space of sex. And I'm speaking about men, because men don't have to carry a child in their body. They don't think about this aspect, even though they're a part of the reason why it happens in the first place. So even if 99% of the time you enter into sex as an idea of fun, it's strictly a fun thing that we're doing, you still have that 1% of the evolutionary foundation of the act that is the generation of life. And creation is a fundamentally, undeniably, deeply feminine attribute. And even the most ardent red pillar will admit to that. Creation is a feminine attribute. Yet in order for creation to happen inside a woman, a man has to participate. Therefore, he has to think about creation himself. When men limit their understanding of intimacy to just the literal friction of the act, they are operating in a low frequency, purely extractive space. They want the 99% that is strictly for fun without respecting the 100% biological and energetic gravity of that portal door that they're knocking on. If they are genuinely looking for a quality relationship, they have to grow outside of that physical shell, that physical desire, and learn how to meet a woman in the emotional and spiritual realms of the divine feminine, which means that men need to engage in their own practice of understanding the divine feminine through their masculine energy. Otherwise, they're just trying to force access to us that they are not in any way, shape, or form spiritually equipped to handle. So let's go over a brief history, because often the Manosphere likes to say that patriarchy is quote unquote the natural way of things, but history tells us a different story. Since the beginning of Homo sapiens, modern humans, the construct of patriarchy has been around for only about 3% of our existence. As best as historians can tell, patriarchy began somewhere between 6,000 and 12,000 years ago. And in that time frame, the shift toward male dominance has been imperceptible, particularly to us now, right? We've had 6,000 to 12,000 years to move outside of what prior to that 3%, 90%, 97% of Homo sapiens time has been in matriarchal systems, right? So it's in that recent 6,000 to 12,000 years feels imperceptible to us currently. But in the grand scheme of things, 97% of our time as modern humans has been in matriarchal systems. And since the written word has also come about in the same time frame as patriarchy, that means most of what we know of our history as modern humans is in fact through male belief systems, male perceptions, and male dominance. And because what we know of matriarchal systems is one of oral history and storytelling, they are considered unimportant. Matriarchal systems and storytelling are considered unimportant as compared to the written word, because it is perceived by men through men to maintain the system that they want to uphold, right? And particularly those in power. And those in power have usually been wealthy men who were educated and prevented anyone who was not wealthy from being educated, right? So to say that patriarchy is the natural order is in fact not only 100% fucking false. It is really male-centered wishful thinking. Because in those 6 to 12,000 years, women have had to evolve outside of the constraints of patriarchy. We have had to, oftentimes in secret, continue our communities. Think witchcraft, right? Think healing, think shamanism. We have continued our own empowerment with our daughters, with our younger generations. We have navigated a system that has oppressed us and wanted us to fail in order to maintain superiority and control over us, period. And we've had to learn how to navigate that through the rules, through the laws, through the practice and policy, right? And while so many laws and practices and policies try to keep us, women, pigeonholed and helpless and in less than belief systems, we continuously circumnavigate those so-called rules, and we spiritually, emotionally, and financially grow outside of what is expected of us, because we know men are not going to take care of us, period. Whether it is physically, whether it is psychologically, spiritually, financially, emotionally, men aren't going to do it, and we have to find a way to make that happen. Men, however, have not had to do any of this, and their emotional and spiritual capacity have essentially flatlined as of 6 to 12,000 years ago. The manosphere is yelling into the void, demanding that women devolve back into centuries-old belief systems. And I have news for you. It is absolutely fucking no. That is not going to happen. You can keep screaming all you want, but you're creating a larger chasm between women who will even entertain a thought with you at all, and men who like to yell into the void, because men. So demanding us to devolve versus men growing into a higher self is only going to create that larger gap in that so-called male loneliness epidemic, which is AKA men blaming women for all of their problems, again, is what that is. So let's look at the historical and sociological architecture of this. My research into patriarchal culture characteristics shows that it operates as a vertical trap. It relies on hierarchy, male-centeredness, one-upsmanship, just to name a few. And the manosphere is simply the modern digital evolution of that old hand. It teaches men to approach women singularly as adversaries to be managed or property to be acquired. That's what they're thinking about. That's it. But let's look through the lens of the divine feminine. The feminine energetic principle is the dark, fertile soil from which all forms manifest. It's the dark, the womb, the chaotic, and beautiful spark of creation itself. And when a man views intimacy via sex through a patriarchal lens, he is playing a low-stakes game. He thinks he's purchasing an asset, but the second he enters the field of intimacy with a sovereign woman, he is entering a space governed by the laws of creation. True intimacy, the truest form of intimacy in an emotional, spiritual sense, requires the ego to dissolve. It requires vulnerability, and it requires emotional resonance. And the tragedy of the manosphere is that it teaches men to fear the exact emotional and spiritual literacy required to experience the very depth they are starving for. Intimacy outside of just sex. If you remove the sex portion from it and you have to have an emotional, vulnerable, spiritual conversation, can they handle it? Usually the answer is no, right? They are desperately trying to balance a ledger of transactions while standing at the gates of a sacred mystery. 9 times out of 10, they really want to control whatever is happening outside the gates rather than step through it and experience magic and a holistic, truest form of joy, hope, and excitement with a partner. So if a man really wants a high value, deeply aligned relationship, he has to understand that the portal does not yield its magic to a glossy sales pitch on a bio on any dating app. It will yield to stewardship, however. So to grow outside of the physical act means learning to value the feminine energy of intimacy in its entirety. It means understanding that her intuition is her firewall. Her emotional landscape is a map, and her spiritual alignment is her sovereign territory. When the masculine energy shifts from trying to extract from the portal to learning how to steward the space around it, the entire dynamic transmutes. We move out of the competitive, hierarchical trap of dominance and step into the faceted intersectional landscape of true mutual belonging. So, to the men listening and to the women holding the line, stop allowing low frequency transactions to audit your sacredness. The portal belongs to you. You get to guard it like Medusa with stone cold, unshakable firewalls. You get to choose who is going to walk through that with you and experience that joy and excitement and hope, or close the gate and say, block, moving on, right? So before I give you this week's clarity audit, please, if this is resonating with you in any capacity, share. This is how we get the word out. Make sure that your friends who are needing a bit of a reminder of their worth are listening, and leave a review. It's how we grow. So let's look at our audit this week. Number 1, the extraction scan. Look at your current relational or digital interactions. Where do you feel a pressure to provide emotional, spiritual, or physical access based on what a partner has financially or performatively invested, air quotes, in you? And remember, I'll put these in the show notes so you have them. You don't have to frantically write them down. Number 2, the Intuition Firewall. Think of the last time your animal guts felt a boundary probe during an intimate or conversational moment, but your socially trained brain told you to soften your response. What patriarchal script were you trying to accommodate? And number 3, the frequency check. Are the individuals attempting to access your space speaking the language of conquest and utility? Or do they possess the capacity for emotional and spiritual literacy? Let's talk antidotes for exiting the Manosphere. Number 1, shift from conquest to stewardship. Stop treating physical intimacy as a metric of success, validation, or conquest. Recognize that intimacy is a shared energetic space of creation. You have just as much to do with the creation of a human, no matter how hard you try to fight it. It's just as much a creation that you are entering into. Own it. Your objective on a date or in a relationship is not to secure a payout, but to act as a safe, respectful steward of a mutual connection. Develop spiritual and emotional literacy. If you only value a woman for her physical beauty or her compliance or utility, you are operating in a low frequency space. You are a low frequency person. That's not a compliment. You are operating in a space that guarantees loneliness because you are not evolving. Women love to have conversations that empower us and to make us better people. And we want you to be able to have that conversation with us. Actively do the shadow work. Look up Carl Jung. to develop your emotional intelligence. Learn to listen to a woman's nonverbal boundaries, respect her intuition, and value her internal essence of her external shell. Deconstruct the transactional mindset. Throw out the vending machine model of dating. Financial generosity, buying dinner, or displaying social status are gestures of hospitality. That's it. That's all they are. Gestures of hospitality. They are never down payments on a contract for women's autonomy or physical access. The ledger ends when the tab is paid. Once the tab is paid, you've made an agreement. Maybe you asked, is it okay if I get this? If she says yes, and you grab the whole tab, that's it. There's no more conversation about what she owes you, period. Everything after the tab has been paid requires a separate contract, separate enthusiasm, and separate mutual consent. There is no room for negotiation here. Honor the boundary with absolute grace. When a woman draws a line, when she pulls back, closes off to you, do not deploy the bullshit Manosphere defense mechanisms. Do not gaslight her. Do not claim it was quote unquote just a joke. Do not attempt to negotiate her boundary. And don't throw out the standard insults. That's just sad. Step back with dignity. Of course it stings. Nobody likes rejection. But here's the thing. If you can manage your own ego and respect her sovereignty when she says no, or this was great, but I don't see it going anywhere, you become a person that she talks about because you did things with grace. She might not be a good match for you, but maybe she has a friend who would be. And because you managed yourself in a way that was gentlemanly, in a way that showed respect and kindness and thoughtfulness, and that you could handle the vulnerability of rejection in a way that made her feel safe with you, she will feel safe introducing you to a friend. If you choose to go the Manosphere route, you are closing a door forever, not only to her, but to anyone she may know who would be a good match for you. So think about the ripple effect. I realize all of these are easier said than done, and I'm not here to hold your hand. You are going to have to do the work on your own. So I suggest surrounding yourself with men who have successful, loving relationships that are based in spiritual growth, not physical urges, or finding maybe a men's group where they're supporting emotional growth. Okay? Do the work for yourself. Don't expect the women to do any more emotional labor where you're concerned. Full stop. Our mantra for the week. My center is a sacred portal of creation, not a transactional matrix of compliance. I do not owe the world a low maintenance version of myself to keep its fragility quiet. I'm stepping out of the ledger and into my sovereignty. I am fiercely whole, and I am stone cold magical. Stay selfishly magical, my friends. Until next time, Joe B, signing off. No coughing, yay.